Hi there guys, sorry it's been a few weeks. I've had family staying at the house so we haven't had too many games. We're going to play another English Civil War game. I don't know about you guys, but I've always found the Shenandoah campaign fascinating in my reading, and I've been reading another book about Stonewall Jackson and his campaign. So I thought I'd play a game or two based on it. So this is going to be my version of the first battle in the Valley campaign, which was the battle at Kernstown. So we here have Jackson, who had orders to disrupt the Union troops and draw them away from a threat to Richmond by causing trouble in the Valley, advancing on the Union position. But it's actually an encounter battle because we also have the Union forces moving up to try and attack Jackson. Jackson doesn't understand the size of the Union force he's facing off against, so he will be surprised when the full weight of the Union attack comes in. All right, let's have a look at what forces we've got out on the table to start with. All right, so we're starting the battle a little bit after the commencement of hostilities. So what's happened so far is that Fulkerson, with this very small Confederate brigade, had advanced across these various different fence lines towards the Union position at the edge of the table, but was driven back by the weight of Union fire. The Union forces are mainly gathered here. We've got 3 brigades of Union troops. We've got Tyler's brigade, which is this brigade coming through the woods on this hill. We've got Kimball's brigade in the centre, and off table on the left we have Sullivan's brigade. That brigade was 4 regiments strong, but that was pinned in place by one sole Confederate unit and artillery battle. So this battle took place in foggy conditions, and they didn't appreciate the weakness of the rebel forces. So we're not showing Sullivan and that one brigade, because if we were to and include them in the action, they'll quickly overwhelm the rebel right flank. That did not happen in reality. So the Union forces, thinking they were pinned over here by the doorway, decided to do an outflanking manoeuvre. So they have sent Tyler's brigade, which is 5 regiments strong, marching through the woods to try and outflank the rebels and screen themselves from the rebel artillery batteries, which are facing off to the that corner there. So we've got Tyler's brigade flanking with 5 regiments in it, and then we've got Kimball's brigade, which is those 4 regiments there, which will also be free to advance against the rebel position. So we've got 9 attacking Union brigades. They all count as trained troops, with the exception of one of the Pennsylvania regiments. So one of these regiments in Tyler's brigade, it's the regiment without a flag, will count as the Green Regiment, otherwise all trained. They're facing off against the rebels, which have quite a lot of regiments, but they're all incredibly weak. Most of the Union regiments are 4 to 5 bases strong. For the Confederates, every unit is small. They're all 2 or 3 bases strong, so that'll significantly reduce their staying power. They are, however, in the main veterans. So we have Fulkerson's brigade down here, 2 regiments strong. We have on table Ashby's cavalry, just screening Fulkerson's brigade out in front of them. And then on the rebel left-hand side, we've got Garnett's brigade, which did have orders to attack. It's just moving forward and has stumbled across this stone wall. So they are forming up against this wall as they see the Union troops starting to advance out of the woods. So how can we do? Can Jackson, standing here in the centre, hold off this attack? Actually, Jackson wasn't present, I don't think, on the field of battle. He was a long way in the rear. He allowed his brigade commanders to take on the action, and at least for the early part of the battle, didn't appreciate the seriousness with which he was outnumbered. But anyway, we've got a Commander-in-Chief on the table today. All right, let's see how this game goes. Hope you enjoy it, and welcome to the Battle of Kernstown. Okay, so we're going to roll for ADCs, and thanks for the feedback that let me know in Pickett's Challenge you don't need to call an infantry assault result, so that's much appreciated. We now know that feature for our ADC allocations. I'm going to give an extra dice for Jackson. It doesn't perhaps feel warranted given the quality of his generalship in this game, but as Napoleon said, give me a lucky general any day, and certainly I think that Kernstown may well count as a lucky encounter for Jackson. So let's see how we do. Unions get 3 ADC and the Confederates get 4. So the Confederates get 2 6s, which gives them an automatic bonus dice, and the Unionists only succeed in 2. So we've got 6 ADCs to allocate. Let's allocate them to the various troops and roll for activation. Right, so for the Union troops, we do have some artillery, although we have not deployed it on the table. It all stayed on the high ground behind the Union assault. So we have 3 batteries off table that can fire at long range. And the Unionists with their 2 ADCs have put rerolls on both their advancing brigades. For the Confederates, we've put a reroll on our brigade moving up as reinforcements, and a reroll on the brigade that's occupying the wall line that has this artillery battery in assault, and put infantry assault on that battery as well. All right, let's see if we can get infantry assault to come off. A 1, but we did have a reroll of 4, so we are active with this brigade. Let's see how on our reinforcements we are active, and then this brigade, which has no reroll, is also active. So all Confederate forces are active, and let's leave a 6 next to these guns so we can remember they have got artillery assault in place. Okay, now let's roll for both the Union brigades. A 6 and a 6. Okay, so everything's active for all brigades, and let's roll initiative. So this will be a straight roll off, as both sides have no hesitant brigades. And we're on 11 for the Union, 8 for the Confederates, so the Union get to go first. We'll do their movement. All right, for movement for the Confederates, Fulkerson's brigade has just moved up into line, so it's giving one another mutual support. Garnett's brigade in the rear. Is it Garnett's that's in the rear? No, Garnett's is up at the stone wall, moving up to properly occupy the stone wall. And Burke's brigade has moved into column so it can advance more swiftly, and is looking to take a position slightly further forward as the Confederate reserve. All right, then for the Union, Tyler's brigade has progressed through the woods. Unfortunately, the front regiment has gone unformed as it tried to deploy into line, and then the 2nd Union brigade has moved up towards the fence line. All right, we'll now get some skirmishing fire from the rebel cavalry, some long-range artillery fire from the Union guns on the hills, and some Confederate artillery assault. All right, so we've got 3 Union batteries firing at long range. First battery is going to try and fire at this central Confederate regiment defending the wall. So artillery fire modifiers, they are in cover, so that will count as -1. Yeah, all right, we'll do a -1. Firing at long range. First battery is a 6 at long range, -1 is 1. Is half a casualty, so 4, 5, 4, 6 for that to convert. It does, that's 1 casualty on that Confederate regiment. And then the other 2 batteries are going to fire at Fulkerson's regiment. With all those fence lines in front of them, we're also going to count them as in cover. So we get an 8, which goes down to a 7, and a 5, which goes down to a 4. So a 4 does nothing, a 7 again causes half a casualty, 1 casualty with a large battery firing, and we're counting all the Union batteries as large batteries, so that's 2 lots of 1 casualty on the Confederate troops. No other units from the Union side will fire. I will say all of the Union troops are going to be firing with rifled muskets, and all of the Confederates are fighting this battle with smooth bores, so we'll see how that affects the firing as well. All right, actually we might have a go. We'll see if we're in range. That Union regiment that moved up to the fence line is going to have a shot at the Ashby's scouting Confederate cavalry. All right, firing at Ashby's cavalry is shots at effective range, because they are within 14 inches, and the range for rifled muskets is 18 for long range. Sorry, so it's a long range, not effective range. So at long range, they moved, so that's -2 and -1 because the cavalry are behind the hedge line. We're assuming they're dismounted. All right, we roll a 7, that goes down to a 4. That's a loss of fire discipline, so no effect from them. We'll assume that other large regiment has its view obstructed, as it has a fence line between it and the target, and it's not up to the fence line. But this regiment also over here can fire. It'll be a deadbeat volley as they are unformed. It'll be at long range, that makes no difference. The target is in cover, so that'll be -1, it'll be -3 again. Let's see what they do. They roll a 7, that goes down to a 5. That is no effect. So no effect from the Union firing, other than those 2 casualties from their artillery. The rebels will now respond. Right, the rebel cavalry are going to fire first. They're firing rifle carbines at 14 inches, that's long range. They're just in long range. -1, because the Union troops are in cover. Wow, they roll pretty well. They roll an 11, that goes down to a 10 for a long range volley. That's 2 casualties on that Union brigade that had moved up to the fence line. All right, we'll now fire our Smoothmore muskets. They've only got a range of 12 inches. I don't think the rebels will be in range. No, the rebels are out of range at this point. And then the rebel artillery on the hill will open fire. That will fire at the Union unit that has just moved out of the woods. Let's see what the range is. Okay, so that's 26. Okay, I'll just have to put this down, get my toe measure out. All right, so firing this battery, they count as at long range. They have 2 artillery dice because of the artillery assault. Let's see how they do. We roll, let's make sure I declare it before I roll the dice, especially as that's so extreme. So the reds will be the Confederates. I know I've been using blue dice for them, but if we're using 2 different sets, blues are Union and reds are Confederates. So the reds will be the Confederates and the blues will be the artillery dice. So we've rolled a 7 with 1 extra casualty. So at long range for a small battery is half a casualty, which doesn't convert, and 1 from the artillery dice. So that's 1 casualty on that Union unit. Okay, so we're now at turn 2. Both sides got 2 ADCs and have activated all their brigades. No special orders this turn. Let's see who gets initiative. The rebels get 4. The Union troops get a 6. So the Union forces get to move first. All right, here we are at the end of turn 2 movement. The Union troops continue to move through this woodland on the far right of the Union flank. A couple of units got disordered. The green Pennsylvanian troops, this regiment here as well, got disordered moving through the woods. This front regiment managed to reform, and a further regiment has emerged from the woodline. Over on the Union left, all of their units have now lined the hedges and will start putting some fire into the Confederate cavalry that is behind the headlines, behind the fence line. Down here, the Confederates have remained in position behind the wall, and this brigade has moved up in reserve. We'll see whether the Confederates hold their defensive position or go offensive and try and dislodge the Union troops. Jackson, as it were, needs to be aggressive here if he's going to accomplish his orders and attract more Union troops into this theatre. All right. Union firing first. Sorry about that. We'll start off with their long-range artillery. So we've got 3 batteries firing. I think we're going to target this unit by the wall here with 2 batteries, and 1 for that unit behind the hedge line. All right, doing the one next to the artillery battery, we roll a 6. For long range, in cover becomes a 5. That's half a casualty on them. Let's see if that converts. It does, so that's 1 casualty on the one on the right. And then I think we're going to give people -2 for the stone wall, because it's got to be better than the fence line, I think. So it'll be -2 off the artillery dice roll. We roll a 9, which will become a 7, and an 8, which will become a 6. So a 7 and a 6 are 1.5 casualties. So let's see. That doesn't convert, so just 1 casualty on this rebel unit on the right by the wall. All right, so both these Union regiments can also open fire at long range. -2 firing against this unit on the far left. That 7 becomes a 5 for a long range volley, is nothing. And this regiment here, again, a standard size regiment, opening fire, a 7. At long range at -2 becomes a 5. No casualties. So no casualties from that long-range speculative musketry by the Union troops. And then up against the fence line, the 2 units over there will open fire. One will be at -3 because it moved up to the fence line, and it's firing at long range. Let's just check. Not firing at long range, firing at skirmishers. So that'll be -2 for firing at skirmishers, and for moving, another -2. Yep, that's it. Okay, so the large regiment gets 2 extra combat dice though. So we'll take the red as the combat dice. These are going against the cavalry. Combat dice converts 1, but a 2 is a loss of fire discipline. So no impact from that. And then the other regiment will open fire also at long range, and it does a 7. At long range is 1 casualty. So that's 2 casualties in total against the cavalry. All right, firing was finished for the Confederates on turn 2 as well. So this battery on the hill caused 1 casualty on that advancing Union regiment at long range. Our cavalry caused a casualty on one of those Union regiments, and our battery deployed here on the road also caused 1 casualty. Both of the Union regiments are benefiting from being behind that fence line. All right, that's the end of turn 2. Let's move on to turn 3. Will the Union press their assault? Okay, so the Unionists won initiative, but unfortunately this left-hand brigade went hesitant. Not many ADCs for the Union this turn. For the Confederates, we have artillery assault on our guns in the centre, and all Confederate brigades are active. Union get to move first. Okay, so our brigade moving through the woods have all formed up, took advantage to deploy into a line and regain their formations. Over on the Union left, the various different regiments have moved across the fence line. 1 unit went disordered and just pushed on forward, and the Confederate cavalry, Ashby's cavalry, have continued to fall back in advance or in anticipation of that move. Otherwise, no movements for the Confederacy. We'll open up with some artillery. So again, some long-range artillery firing. We'll open up with that first. And what units shall we take a pot shot at? So I think the Union artillery will try and degrade this Confederate gun battery. So we're going to fire 3 shots at this gun battery at long range. They're all at -2 because it's deployed artillery. 3 will be a loss of a casualty from fatigue for the artillery battery, but at 10 goes down to an 8. Long range, that's the first casualty on the gun, and then the 3rd battery will open up on the guns. It rolls a 9, so that becomes a 7. Again, that is another casualty, so that's 2 casualties on the guns, not enough to stop them doing their artillery assault, but it's starting to degrade the Federals' positions, the Confederates' positions, and then these 2 regiments that didn't move because of their hesitancy order will open fire as well, both firing at long range, 1 firing at the regiment on the right and 1 on the left. The normal regiment against the one on the right rolls a 7, that goes down to a 6. So long range shot is half a casualty, though that doesn't convert. And then the other battalion rolls a 7, that goes down to a 5. Again, that will be at long range, no casualties. So simply 2 casualties for the Union troops on that Confederate artillery battery. Okay, so the Confederates are going to open fire these 3 inferior volleys, because they're all small regiments. There will be inferior volleys, or deadbeat volleys as they're called in this game. Actually, they're all long-range volleys, given the range of the Union troops. And again, we've got smoothbore baskets, and we remain out of range, so no effect from the Confederates. They're just going to stand here and take that firing, but we will open fire with our guns. So these are going to fire at that large Union regiment. Let's see what they do. So these are smoothbore 6-pounders, opening fire at effective range. Reds will be the artillery dice, and blues are the combat dice. So that's 1 extra casualty from the blues, and an 8 becomes a 7 because they're behind a fence. So that is 1 casualty, that is 2 casualties on those Union troops from the gun line. All right, and then finally the Confederate guns on the hill will open fire at this regiment, also at effective range. That is an 8. That is also 2 casualties. We'll mark both those up. All right, so the Union have yet again retained initiative. It was -2 to them. -2 to the Confederates. Let's have a look. We got the roll here on the table. The Confederates rolled a 6, the Union rolled a 7. So the Confederates have initiative. It was -2 on the Confederates because this brigade and this brigade are hesitant, as the Confederates used a rally roll with 3 ADCs to take 1 off this gun crew because they see this as critical to their defence. Over here, the Unionists did similar. They used all 3 ADCs to take 1 casualty off their large regiment, as that's their most powerful striking unit on that flank. But luckily for the Union troops, both brigades were active. Right, so Confederates to go first, and let's come back after movement. All right, so on the Federals' right, all the units have now deployed into line. They're moving forward. They're all formed up. On the Federal left, the large brigade is still lost fire discipline and has now gone unformed, crossing the fence line. The regiment to its left crossed intact, as did the one in rear support, and the final regiment has swung off to the left because the Confederate cavalry have come around to the flank to do some harassing fire. That's it for movement. Confederates to fire first. We'll start with these brigades on the left flank. They are now, I think, firmly in range for their smoothbores. Yeah. So we've got 3 small regiments firing. We'll fire the first 2 against the left-hand regiment. The red ones will be the ones on my left. So this one rolls a 9. And the other one rolls an 8. So pretty good firing from these. These will both be, just need to find the table. These will both be deadbeat volleys because they are small units. So an 8 and a 9 is 5 casualties and a C the elephant test on this front Union regiment. Okay, so this Union regiment has taken a C the elephant test. It rolls a terrible roll. That's a 3, and that goes down to a 2 because it's taken 6 casualties. So on a 2-2, and these are regulars, 2 or less, it routs. So that will be a falter test on this brigade. Okay, and we also need to take a C the elephant test for this second brigade because it has been interpenetrated. They get an 8, so they are fine. But I think they may go unformed. Yep, that's indeed right, they do go unformed. Right, let's do the final volley from the Confederates down here. Another small unit, they fire and they get a 6 on a deadbeat volley. Is simply 1 casualty on this Union regiment. They go up to 4, but no morale test for them. So that has worked well. All right, then the Confederate guns down here will open fire. This might be at close range. Let's check the range here. 11 inches. So 11 inches for 6-pounders is close canister, so they're firing at close range, and that is the only modifier. There's no defensive benefits, and a 4. That will not be good. Well, not too bad. 1 casualty on this unit takes them back up to 4 again after where they were before they did their rally test. And then we've got a unit of skirmishers in the woods who are going to open fire at that same unit. They don't cause any casualties, and then another volley from these ones will give them cover because of the fence lines in the way, and we roll a 6, which goes down to a 5 for a deadbeat volley. Is half a casualty. So let's see if that converts. Yes, it does. So this unit regiment is now up to 5 casualties, and then the last piece of firing for the turn will be our cavalry regiment on the flank. They will do I guess they should be doing skirmisher fire. I hadn't really thought about that. How many on each base would we have? 3 figures to a base. That's what I normally do. So 1, 2, 3. So for a normal standard size regiment, you'd get 4 bases. Certainly you would in General D'Armée. So we'll use that. So there should be 4 bases. So it should be 4 dice rolling at the skirmishers. So if you're firing at skirmishers with skirmishers, you're firing, you lose 1 combat dice, so there'll be 3 dice needing 5s or 6s. No casualties. So no casualties from the Confederate cavalry. The Union cavalry will now respond. They get 2 dice back. They don't cause any casualties. All right, we'll come back with the rest of the Union firing. Right, first regiment will be at -4 because it's both unformed. They're firing at this unit behind the wall. That's a 3. That'll be a loss of fire discipline. Yeah, and the other one is at -2, and that's a 3 as well. So both those federal units lose fire discipline. Okay, then our large regiment over here will open fire. It's at -2 because it is lost. It's unformed, and it's also a deadbeat volley because it's lost fire discipline. So it will have 2 fire dice though for being a large regiment. So the fire dice both don't convert, but we get a 9, which goes down to a 7 because we are unformed. So for a deadbeat volley, a 7 is 2 casualties against that defending Confederate regiment. And the Union guns are going to open fire. We're going to fire 2 batteries against that same Confederate regiment and 1 battery against the guns. Doing against the regiment first. The 3 just causes another fatigue casualty on the Union batteries, but the 10 goes down to an 8 at long range. That is 1 more casualty on this Confederate regiment. That takes them up to 5. They really are starting to take a pounding. And then we'll have another battery firing against the guns. Another good roll. A 10 goes down to an 8. That is 1 casualty, so it takes the guns up to 2 casualties again. Right, that's it for Union fire, and that's the end of the turn. All right, let's roll for ADCs, and we do have a faltering Union brigade. Okay, so here we are for ADCs. So the Union have got 2, and they get a bonus 1 because they've got a double 6, and the Confederates have got also 3. Confederates are going to put all 3 on the brigade that's in danger of being assaulted in the centre here, so they'll put artillery assault on. And we'll do 1 for a reroll. We need the reroll. No, we don't get artillery assault off, and this brigade is hesitant. Okay, our other 2 brigades, the top left is active, and the reserve is active. So that at least means these guns can fire. And then for the federal forces, we've got 3 dice. So we'll put 1 on our unit on the left, as they see it, on my right, as you're looking at this picture. See if they are active. And they get the reroll. Yes, they are. So that's good for them. And now we've got the really important serendipity test. Not serendipity test. What's it called in this game? It's not See the Elephant. It's a faltering brigade test, just as in General Armée. Okay, so we got 2 dice for this. Our first roll is a 1. Our second roll is a 4, not a disaster. So these are regular troops. So they go hesitant. The brigade may not move close to the enemy. No charges, no long-range fire or artillery assault, no rallies. And whipped units lose 1 casualty and routed units disperse. So we do lose 1 of the Union units, but otherwise they are simply hesitant this turn and the attack can continue. Okay, so the Federals on this right flank simply have formed up, but because they're hesitant, weren't able to move forward. On the Federal left flank, this regiment, which was in reserve behind the hedge line, has moved across the fence, stayed in formation and passed through its colleagues to bring itself into musketry range. This other regiment advanced over the hedge. It has gone unformed, but it can also bring some shots to bear. Otherwise, our little screen on the flank has stayed where it was. And for the Confederates who moved first, there was no changes in position. All right, Confederate firing first. Same thing, 2 shots, this time from the 2 right-hand regiments will go against this Union regiment. See if we can break another one. These will both be inferior volleys. A 9, sorry, I should get my terminology right, deadbeat volleys. So a 9 is 3 casualties and a 10 is 3 casualties. So that's 6 casualties and a see the elephant test on this brigade. This takes these ones up to 10, so that'll be a test at -2, and they are nearly gone. Mind you, they roll an 8, which goes down to a 6, so I think from memory they will simply go unformed. Right, so that presents the Confederates with an opportunity. Their skirmishers in this wood are also going to fire at that brigade. 2 5s. Ah, 1! And we would have destroyed the regiment, but no, it's still hanging in there, and that's no fault to test for these Union troops, but they are in desperate trouble. All right, and then finally, our small regiment here will do a deadbeat volley against this brigade. A 2, that's nothing, that's a loss of fire discipline. That's it. Okay, so the Confederate guns will open up with canister against the brigade that's just approaching them. A 6, a slightly better shot than last time, but simply 2 casualties and a lot -1 for the fence. So 1 casualty against that brigade, and then they'll do a volley against them as well. This will be a deadbeat volley, a better roll, an 8 goes down to a 7. That is 2 casualties. So that's 3 casualties against that Union regiment, but no see the elephant test. Finally, the guns on the hill, who are the greatest threat? Well, I think they can argue that that unit is the closest Federal unit. However, that one on the right looks like a greater threat as it's in an outflanking position. So, are they out of arc of fire? They probably are. Ooh, tough one. I think they think this position's pretty safe, so they'll go against that large regiment in the rear. An 8 at long range, I think, is 1 casualty on that large Union regiment. Okay, I wasn't going to film the Union firing, but we have just rolled a double 6. Always happens when I don't film. So this regiment firing at this Confederate unit behind the wall. So that does go down to a 10, and it is at long range. Let's just check. Rifles, 9 inches for effective range. Yeah, they are. Rifle muskets, yeah, they're at 11. So it is at effective range. So that goes down to a 10. For a long range volley is 2 casualties, but it is our first serendipity test of the game. And we roll a 6. So these are a crack regiment. So the opposing unit immediately retires. So this unit takes 2 casualties and has to fall back under the fierceness of that volley. Right, we finished the rest of the Union firing. I'll just pick up that random smoke. And the artillery did nothing. It went against the rebel cavalry to try and put some pressure on them, but did nothing. And against the rebel guns in the centre, but again, being deployed guns, not a great target. So no casualties from the rebels. On the rebels from the Union artillery. The Union musketry from this brigade, which is putting pressure on here, has had quite an effect. However, these guns are now on 4 casualties. and the rebel regiment on the right is on 7 casualties. So no let up for the pressure on the Rebs on the right. All right, that's the end of this turn. Let's move on to the next. All right, so all regiments are active. ADCs were put on just to do rerolls. Those rerolls were needed, but everything went active, and the rebels again have initiative. I think we're on about turn 6. Let's see what they do. Right, so we've completed our moves for turn 6. The rebels are feeling pretty confident now. They've brought all of their regiments into the line on the wall. They still have this one that was thrown back, but it has reformed this turn. The Union troops have retreated their really damaged unit to the rear. The other two have moved up, but I think they're going to take a hammering from the rebel firing. Over here, the rebel troops have withdrawn their front brigade from the one that had taken 7 casualties, and the skirmishers from the woods have brought their reserve brigade up online. The Union troops continue to put pressure, and over on the far flank the rebel cavalry have formed up. See if they can charge this pesky small unit of Union troops to their front. We'll see how cavalry charges do against formed infantry. Not well, I don't think, in the Civil War. All right, let's see what happens. Confederates too far first. Wow, pretty good first roll. 10 and a 10. This does look like the end of this Union attack on the right. So 2 lots of 10 are at effective range. These are deadbeat bullies. That is because they are small units. Let's get some more casualty dice because we need them. That's 6 casualties and 2 see the elephant tests. First one is a normal one, and the second one will be at -1. So the first one is a 9, they pass, and the second one at -1 is a 4, that goes down to a 3. Now they've taken 6 casualties. They are regulars, so I think that is a retreat rather than a rout result, a whipped result rather. Yeah, on a 3-2-5. So they fall back 18 inches and have a chance of disordering the unit behind them. In fact, they do disorder them, but they don't fail there. See the elephant test. Right, and then our next 2 volleys, a 7 and a 5, not nearly so good this time. Firing is starting finally to wear down, running out of ammo perhaps, but that is still 2 casualties on that attacking Union regiment, which looks very much on its own now. All right, let's move across to the red firing in the centre. Each unit will go against its opposition. So the guns first, close range canister. They roll a 9, their first decent fire. That is 4 casualties and a see the elephant test on that large regiment. So that takes them up to 10. So I think for a large regiment that is a test at -2. Let's see what their see the elephant test result is. They roll a 7, that goes down to a 5, which I think also will be a retreat. Yeah, 3-5 is a retreat result. We'll move them back. Then our 2 deadbeat bullies for our 2 small regiments. Reds on the left, wow, a 10. That goes down to a 9 because we're firing through a fence line, but a 9 is 3 casualties and a see the elephant test, and a 5 which goes down to a 4, which will be nothing, a loss of fire discipline, but 3 casualties and a see the elephant test. Let's see, they've already taken, can't see it, 3, 6, so this is a test at -1. They roll an 8, that goes down to a 7. They simply go unformed. Right, Union return fire. So we've just rolled a 6 for our small unit there, firing at the recently formed up Confederate cavalry. Some Union revenge at last. That'll be 3 casualties, 4 casualties, and a see the elephant test. So a test at -1, a 7. A 9. They will stay there, but that takes their casualties up to 5. All right, we'll come back with the rest of the. Okay, so first Union regiment down here at -1. They roll a 7, that's a 6 for a standard volley. It's 1 casualty on the Union regiment, and then -3 for the next regiment because they are unformed. So that is 5. That is another 1 casualty on that new Union regiment Rebel regiment in the front line. Then firing down here, -2 and -4 because we moved. That'll be nothing and a loss of fire discipline. And for the small regiment will be nothing and a loss of fire discipline. And then we've got the Union artillery. We will have a go against those rebel guns. 2 shots. A 6 goes down to a 4 and a 7 goes down to a 5. So that's half a casualty on the guns. No, it doesn't convert. And the final one, an 8 goes down to a 6, which is also half a casualty on the guns. No, we clearly are wasting our Union artillery on counter battery fire. So that's it for Union firing for this turn. All right, at this stage, I think we're going to call this game as actually a good result for Jackson and his forces. They've definitely beaten the Unionists to a draw. I think we might try this one again. I think the rebel troops was too strong. I think those two base Union regiments, counting as small regiments, there were only a couple hundred troops in each one, put out too much firepower for the Union troops, and the majority, sort of significant superiority in numbers, didn't play through. So I think I might combine 2 or 3 of those smaller units into a couple of larger regiments and see how this goes. So we might give this game another go, and if it's interesting and different, we might bring that one as a comparison. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this game. Good defensive battle for Stonewall Jackson. Cheers, everyone.